As crazy as it is to say, not Krai is just around the corner, and with it come all new game mechanics that are sure to change up Genshin. However, we don't have to wait until 6.0 to see these things, since we're getting an early taste of it through the newest electro unit, Ineffa. She comes with an all-new reaction called Lunar Charge, so as always I'm gonna break down how to best build her strong teams, and how to get the most out of this new reaction. But first up, we need to understand what she does, so let's delve into her very useful kit. Beginning with her elemental skill, using it will have Ineffa generate a shield and deploy this little robot called Brigida. This shield is a convenient addition to her skill, but the real star is Brigida. Brigida will passively damage enemies with electro damage, much like other electro units, yet she has some major benefits over these characters. A big one is that Brigida will constantly damage enemies. Unlike attacks from certain electro units that remain in one area and need to be recast, Brigida's attacks are AoE, so they'll hit multiple enemies at once, and Brigida will actually move towards enemies should they move out of her range. This ensures enemies will always take damage and make the new Lunar Charge reaction effortless to perform. And this new reaction is the biggest advantage of Ineffa. Now, you're probably wondering, what the heck is Lunar Charge? To put it simply, it's an ultra buff version of Electro Charge and what I like to call Electro Charge 2.0. Here's how the reaction works. When Electro and Hydro hit a target with Ineffa in the team, a cloud will appear and attack enemies affected by these two elements. The cloud can also extend its attack to nearby enemies, and the damage dealt by the cloud will be Lunar Charge damage. And aside from its very fancy font, it is significantly stronger than Taser. A big reason why is that Lunar Charge Electro can actually crit, and this stems from the fact that Lunar Charge scales off of the stats of all the units involved in triggering the Lunar Charge reaction. Based on this, the damage of Electro Charge is able to reach crazy new heights that Taser was never able to do so. You should also know that with Ineffa, all Taser reactions are converted to Lunar Charge, so you won't be dealing both Taser and Lunar Charge at the same time. Lunar Charge scales off of Ineffa's own attack. For every 100 attacks she has, Lunar Charge damage is increased by 0.7% to a max of 14%. To max this out, Ineffa should have at least 2000 attack. Now you're given even more reason to build attack, as another passive of Ineffa scales off it. If Brigida attacks and thunderclouds from Lunar Charged are present, Brigida will dish out extra attacks that are based on 65% of Ineffa's own attack. These extra attacks are considered lunar damage instead of merely electro damage, so this passive will result in a nice damage boost. This makes Ineffa the new savior of Taser teams and electro units, raising the strength of units like Cloran, the Raiden Shogun, and even more on Auroran. Moving on to our elemental burst, it will have Ineffa deal an initial and very cool looking hit against enemies, dealing AoE electro damage. The scaling of this burst is actually really high, thus this hit on its own will deal high damage, and Ineffa can be a bit of a new character, but it will also bring Brigida back to the field should her duration end. If Brigida is already on the field and the burst is performed, her duration will be reset, likewise extending Brigida's damage, and of course the Lunar Charge reaction. Ineffa's burst also has the added bonus of buffing your team a nice amount, whereby your team gains the parameter permutation effect with the burst, increasing the entire party's elemental mastery based on 6% of Ineffa's attack for 20 seconds. This will grant a really nice boost in lunar damage, as well as any other reactions you may be triggering. With all this covered, as you level your Ineffa, make sure you first level Ineffa's elemental skill. This is where most of her damage will come from and how she'll enable for Lunar Charge, but a good portion of her damage also stems from her elemental burst, so next level that, and you can ignore her normal attacks. Now that you understand what she does and how to effectively play her, let's turn our attention to her top weapon choices based on their damage. Topping the list, unsurprisingly, is her signature weapon, the Fractured Halo. It features exceptional stats including a high base attack, an impressive 66% critical damage, and an additional 24% attack boost when utilizing her skill. These attributes are highly valuable on numerous polearm users, but what really sets this weapon apart from others is its 40% damage increase to Lunar Charge damage. So with this polearm equipped, Ineffa's personal damage skyrockets, as does her lunar damage, and this is precisely why the Fractured Halo surpasses all other polearms by quite a big margin. But nevertheless, there's still multiple alternative weapons that she can use and still make really good use of, and a prime example is the second best Scarlet Sands. It grants a ludicrous 44% crit rate packaged with nice amounts of EM and attack, 2 stats very important for Ineffa. This weapon provides everything she wants in terms of damage and makes building her very easy. Another noteworthy option is the Symphonist of Sense, coming in at 3rd. While Ineffa is not going to be able to make full use of the polearms passive since she doesn't heal, but she's still getting benefits similar to her signature, like high crit damage and high attack, so it remains a really good choice. Just shy of 3rd place we have the Calamity Queller, followed by the Staff of Homa. Given that Ineffa won't spend much time on field, she's pretty much never going to make use of the latter half of Homa's passive, but even still it's a really good stat stick for crit damage. Then came Lumidos Elegy, and behind it, the Jadewing Spear next to the Vortex Vanquisher. For 4 stars, the Ballad came out as her very best staff. Admittedly, you are restricted by its passive in terms of team building, but as long as you can work past it, it gives huge EM, and EM is very useful, as is the nice crit rate of this weapon. A less restricted but attack-based version of the Ballad is the Deathmatch. The Deathmatch was so close to the Ballad that honestly I'm gonna regard them as equal, so whichever of them you have, you should absolutely use. After these is the Missive Wind Spear. This polearm, though not an amazing weapon, synergizes really well with Ineffa. She's meant to trigger reactions and she wants both EM and attack, all of which the Wind Spear specializes in. For the likely few of you that even have this weapon, the next best option is the Katane Cross Spear. I've always found this weapon quite odd, but it actually fits quite well with Ineffa. Next is the free-to-play Ohanashi, and finally the Dragon's Bane. For those of you looking for early game polearms, the Halberd is your best option, giving nice amounts of attack for both personal and reaction damage. If not the Halberd, the White Tassel is also a great choice for its high crit rate substat. Before we go over Ineffa's honestly peculiar artifact situation, I just ask that you take a quick second to like the video and possibly subscribe. This helps me out immensely and means a lot. Now, why did I call Ineffa's artifacts peculiar? Lunar Charge is so new that there aren't currently any sets that outright buff it or even work around it. Given it's such a unique playstyle and that 6.0 will soon release, it's virtually guaranteed that a set dedicated for Lunar Charge will release, and that set will be Ineffa's absolute best. As a result, that's the set we should focus on and spend a lot of our resin on, but until this set releases we need to give Ineffa something while not investing too much into our artifacts. And I could just tell you to slap on anything to her and call it a day, but you are here to best build her, so I've still ran the numbers and here are her best temporary sets. At number 1 is Gilded Dreams. Gilded Dreams gives both high attack and EM to Ineffa, 2 key stats that will further both her personal damage and help her reach that 2000 attack requirement that she needs, as well as play into all of her attack reliant passives, while also giving her a nice boost to lunar damage through EM. Behind it, gilded but still very close to it, is the combination of any 2 pieces that increase attack and EM. Remarkably, even though these sort of combinations are just used for convenience and really not for damage, they perform really well on her and are a great cheap option to go with. You can either go with both 2 sets that increase attack and DM, or 2 sets that both increase EM. The damage of these sets are very close, so simply use whichever combo has the best substats. The next best artifact was Thundering Fury. This set increases the damage of Electro Charge and has the added bonus of reducing the cooldown of Ineffa's skill, so though it's not exactly number 1, it's still a worthwhile set to use. Finally comes 4 Golden Troop. Though it grants loads of elemental skill damage and as such buffs her skill a really good amount, Golden Troop doesn't lend any of its buffs to lunar reactions or Ineffa's attack stat, resulting in losing out to all the other sets we went over. As of now, this is really the only options you should go with, but if you really want to, you can switch things up with Ineffa and give her 4 Noblesse or 4 Tenacity, the best of these 2 being Tenacity, but I'd advise against this. Since Ineffa's damage output is high, it's better to keep her as a sub DPS and instead of fashioning her into a support and missing out on all of her damage. If you're looking for good artifacts in early game, you should use any combination of Berserker, Braveheart, Instructor, and Sojourner. As for main stats, equip attack percentage on the Sands or EM. Generally, attack percentage is going to be the best since so much of her kit relies on it and she has that 2k requirement, so opt for attack. This same thing extends to her Goblet. EM is certainly usable, but attack percentage is king. Now, you might be wondering why I haven't mentioned Electro damage, and this is because it's actually not all that good on her. While it is technically usable, it won't raise the damage of Lunar Charge, nor cater to her attack wanting passive, so it's not ideal and you should only use it if you have no other option. Finally, for the circlet, go either crit rate or crit damage. With these main stats, aim for the substats of both crits, attack percentage, and EM. Let's now go over Ineffa's Constellations. I'm not even sure how many of you are going to be going for her Constellation, since after Skirk and Escafia, I'm guessing we're all broke, but even so, she does have some good Constellations that are worth getting, like her C1. It follows very closely to one of her passives, buffing Lunar charge damage based on her attack. This time, however, this buff occurs when her shield is active and gives a way bigger buff, maxing out at 50%. C2 is an interesting constellation. When her burst is used, a special status will be applied on an enemy that will unleash AoE electro damage worth 300% of Ineffa's attack, and this damage is considered lunar damage. Unsurprisingly, this is a very useful constellation and will give you a nice increase in damage. It also gives nearby party members a shield, so if you play a lot of co-op, there's an added bonus for you here. C4 is a bit underwhelming, but still useful nonetheless. Following the pattern of other C4s, it gives quality of life and better regeneration of energy when the lunar charge reaction is dealt. You get 5 energy every 4 seconds, which will be quite noticeable. Last and never least is C6. While Ineffa is under the carrier flow composite effect, she'll unleash extra electro attacks based on 135% of her attack to enemies surrounding the active character. Just like her other mechanics, this is regarded as lunar damage, so the damage of this will be very high, raising her DPS immensely and creating another means for lunar damage to occur. Now that you know how to build Ineffa, let's talk about some great teams to play her in. The first one I want to talk about is with Clorand. Clorand is going to gain immensely from Ineffa, since now instead of just dealing taser reactions, she can make use of the very powerful lunar reaction and raise her DPS significantly. Not only will Clorand's DPS be high in this team, but finally her reaction damage will also be really high as well. In this team, Farina is going to be played to both facilitate the lunar reaction with her passive hydro attacks, and since Clorand synergizes perfectly with Farina, lending loads of electro damage to Clorand and Ineffa, raising their DPS through the roof. For the 4th slot, you can go with another offensive character like Kazuha to continue buffing the team and apply elemental shreds, or you can go with the support to heal your team. A great middle ground for this is Shalonen, who will both heal and buff your team, but if you don't have her, Yansan is a great and cheap option that will still buff and heal your team. Next up with the second team, we're gonna talk about someone that I somehow always come back to, and it's Neuvillette. This guy stays winning, even though he's somewhat of an old character, but he keeps on getting supports and buffers that work with him and keep him meta, and the newest of this is Ineffa. Since he's Hydro, Neuvillette is a great option to run the lunar charge reaction on field. His high field time mixed in with Brigitte's long duration tie in perfectly and give him an all new viability in Not Krai. You can pair Farina alongside Neuvillette for high personal and even more reliable lunar reactions, but you can also make great uses of sub DPSs like Fischl, for example, for more lunar charges as well. One team I've gotta mention that I'm really excited to try out is with Raiden. Raiden, though certainly still strong, has yet to get a massive buff through another unit, but it seems like Ineffa might just be that unit. Slotting in Raiden with Yalan and a buffer like Aurora that's great in Taser or even Sara, you've now got a powerful team that centers around lunar charge and high buffing. Aurora has never looked stronger with Ineffa, and this appears to be the same case with Raiden as well. Well everyone, this is my guide. I hope you guys enjoyed and learned from it, and if you have any questions on Ineffa, be sure to ask me in the comments.